On the road, it has some shunting and things going on. There's a bit of vibrations on gravel roads as well, and it doesn't particularly stand out with handling. Welcome to the SsangYong Musso. This was awarded Drive's Ute of the Year. This is the top of the range Ultimate Luxury XLV, so it's the longer version. It's about 315 millimeters longer than the regular model. That does impact the rear departure angle as well as the breakover angle. It looks pretty good from the front, I reckon. It's pretty neat and it's got decent proportions. Yeah, it's not really offensive in any way. The wheel arches are a bit funny. They kind of look like they're being smacked on the side there and like it's all pushed up flat. Why doesn't it just protrude out a bit and give it a bit of muscle? But apart from that, yeah, I think it looks pretty good. It looks pretty neat. It is interesting that SsangYong offers a longer version. So if you're really looking to, haul cargo and you want to maximize that rear bed, then yeah, you've got that option there. And if you don't care about, the impacts of off-road credentials, then it doesn't matter, you just want that extra space. This one's got the soft cover on the top and it does have a slightly damped tailgate. It doesn't just slam down, and it's all got this plastic lining all the way through. You've got some hooks there, including on the back at the lower end. So some utes have the hooks higher up, which I find a bit pointless. You want them low down so you can tie things down onto the bed rather than just against the wall on the bed. But there's no light, no charging port or anything like that, power socket. But I do like the way it's just one piece, so there's no seam or anything all the way around. So if you wanted to hose that all out, it'll just all hose out and it has to fall out at the end here. The gross combination mass is 6,480, minus the Kerb weight of 2,100 kilograms, and then minus that 3.5 ton towing, and you're still left with 880 kilograms, which is pretty good. So that's the payload, obviously. The short wheelbase, or the regular wheelbase version, the payload drops down to 790 kilograms, which is still pretty good. Taking a look inside, yeah, this is a pretty big cabin. It does actually come with a sunroof, this model, which is very unique for the dual cab ute market segment in Australia. I'll just start it up, push button start. I must admit, I am surprised by the quality of the interior. Like on the dash, you've got this perforated leather and this sort of carbon fiber style trim. It just looks refined. It doesn't look like it's trying to be some sporty pieces of equipment or something like that. It just looks like a refined cabin. Most of the door trim is plastic, including up here on the top, but the dashboard is coated in this sort of soft neoprene style trim. And then down below you've got this little rubber mat that surrounds the gear shifter. It's a nice little touch. A rubber mat here as well, little tray, and then even the cup holders are lined with a rubber surface at the bottom. I think that's pretty good for this price range. The interior I think does present quite nicely. The touchscreen is quite nice as well. It's very large and it's got very simple menu layout. You can go into the setup and choose your different options and things. It does take a while to load, as you've probably just seen. Oh, it's not too bad. Just some of the menus. Some of the menus just take a little bit longer. Yeah, like it's basic, but at least it's big and it's clear. It's easy to understand. You've also got a fully digital instrument cluster as well. I like this layout. The only thing I don't like is it doesn't have a average fuel consumption readout. You've got that one that gives you an average of the current drive, but if you go to the shops and then turn it off again, it just resets pretty much every time by the looks of it. But you do have live tire pressure monitoring, and that's great, especially for utes. As you're driving along, you're doing a lot of working and things, you want to keep an eye on those tire pressures, especially if you're loading up the back. You do have other options to display as well, and little themes that you can go through. Your safety systems and all of that. Yeah, I quite like that. I think the interior is very practical, easy to live with, and it's surprisingly, more refined than you might expect, and certainly more refined than some of the other cheap utes that are on the market at the moment. These seats are quite nice too. Got a bit of support on the sides. They feel pretty good. The perforated leather, which is good. Lets you breathe in those hot summer days when you're at work. And there's plenty of room. So I've got heaps of headroom My head's nowhere near the ceiling there. And it feels, yeah, spacious and airy. The steering wheel is interesting in that it's quite thin. The rim is quite thin, but it does feel quite nice. It doesn't look the best, I guess. It's trying to be a 3-spoke with this little bit here. But a lot of brands do that these days. But yeah, I don't mind that. I like the positioning of the wheel as well. And you can pull it in and out and up and down, so you can find a good driving position regardless of your stature. I'll check out the rear seats. Lots of legroom there, you can see before we even get in. A nice big rubber mat that goes all the way across. I'll just close the door because there's a guy doing some gardening up there. But yeah, plenty of legroom. I feel very comfortable actually. The headroom is really good. The only thing is this doesn't come with tinted windows, so I've got that sun just beaming right down on the back of my neck. But obviously that's not the car's problem, you just go and get tinted windows, I guess. You do have separate climate vents, which is a little bit unique. Sometimes they don't provide the controls for both sides. Independent, I mean, so you can turn the left side off if you want to, if you've got a baby sleeping or whatever. You've got pockets in the sides, in the backs of the seats as well. Stick lined on the back of the seat there, which I guess does come in handy if you're, you know, got workmates coming in and out and they're all dirty with muddy pants and things, so you can easily clean that off. But yeah, the quality is pretty low. But you'd expect that though, because this isn't an expensive option in this specific market segment. I like the way you do have grab handles on the pillar and above on the ceiling, and you've even got a little light there that you can turn on and off. You can't have independent control by the looks of it though. And you can flip down the seat here. You've actually got some room underneath the seat. I mean, it's pretty basic, but you can slide some things under there. And you've got your baby seat anchorage points, 3 individual points there. So you don't have that annoying loop through system that some utes have that have just a central hook, and you've got to loop through that before you go down to one or a single hook. We'll take it for a spin now. We'll check out the handling and ride quality in relation to other dual cab utes on the market, and then we'll hit the dirt and see what it's like off-road. We'll do the performance testing later on as well. On a winding road, it just feels pretty normal. There's nothing really that stands out. It doesn't out-handle any of the rivals, but it's, you know, it doesn't fall behind in any particular area either. The steering is just, yeah, very natural and neutral. I can feel what the tyres are doing to some degree, and I can place it on the road in terms of in the lane pretty easily. It doesn't feel big and bulky. Yeah, it's just an easy ute to drive. You just got to be careful of that length. So it's 5.4 meters long in this specification, which makes it pretty tricky when it comes to parking in shopping centers and things. The width isn't so bad, but the length definitely, you know, if you've got a brick wall that you've got to go up against, this nose will stick out a bit. You need to find a car park that has some area where you can overhang that rear end. The steering does feel a bit weird, in my opinion. It kind of loads up and it's quite heavy during a turn, and you can feel little bumps and things vibrating through the wheel too, which is a little bit off-putting. I wouldn't like to drive this down a winding road like this every single day, but it can do it. It doesn't feel completely uncomfortable. Yeah, right now it's actually shaking and vibrating as I'm going around the corner. It could be subject to this test vehicle though, which may need a wheel alignment or even a wheel balance. I've noticed it does pull to the left a little bit. Watch out, bird. Which, yeah, is an indication that it might need a wheel alignment. The ride quality is okay. There's a bit of shunting and some vibrations going on, but it's not, you know, too out of the ordinary for a 4x4 ute like this. You can just hear a little squeak and a little rattle from the back underneath the car. And this door trim was rattling just a little bit before, but it's not too bad. But the comfort is actually not as bad as some utes on the market. The front end feels pretty good. It's not too harsh and not overly soft either. And the back doesn't feel too jiggly from this position anyway. This is the long version, remember, so it's probably better if you want comfort, so to have the longer model so you're not sitting right on the rear axle. The performance from the 2.2 turbo diesel engine, as you'll find out later on, is pretty average. It's not too bad. It's not as slow as you might expect, despite the power outputs being behind a lot of the rivals at the moment. But yeah, it's a little bit sluggish off the mark. There's a bit of lag as well. Again though, for this price range, I wouldn't really expect class-leading specifications or characteristics. If we can go around this corner, you might be able to see the steering wheel shaking. Yeah, just then it was like a bit of a vibration as we went over some bumps. And I understand utes are not meant for winding roads like this, but I take every ute, every vehicle on a winding road like this, often this exact road. But yes, I do understand that not everybody's going to drive their utes down a spirited road like this. It's just interesting, I find, that some utes can handle it, and it feels quite nice to drive down a road like this. Like the Ford Ranger, it feels pretty good to drive down a road like this. It doesn't feel like it's completely out of its comfort zone. This falls, you know, kind of at the lower end of the average. It doesn't feel absolutely atrocious, but it's not setting any benchmarks, which again, what you'd expect for this price range. It does have a pretty cool surround view camera system, and it will activate as soon as you give it some lock and you're stopped. It'll just automatically activate. It gives you a nice clear view, and you can just spin it around and see where the wheels are. I mean, it's not super accurate there because it's got this, the road is not really, doesn't look perfect like that. As you can see, it's a bit of a rough section up here, but it does give you a good idea, and I like the way that it does automatically activate. Except when you're relying on sat nav or something like that, it'll just take over. So you've got to hit the back button and it'll go back to where you were before. Out on the highway, it cruises along quite nicely. 6th gear or top gear, I'm at sort of 1700 RPM at 110 kilometers an hour. We're going to take it up to 120. We'll kick down, so we're in 4th, and at the moment go back up to 6th. 120 is about, yeah, it's still under 2000 RPM, which is not too bad. It does feel pretty comfortable too. There's a little bit of wind noise around the mirror there, but nothing out of the ordinary. You could take this for a nice long drive and, yeah, not feel like you're sacrificing or compromising on anything compared with any of the other dual cab 4x4 utes on the market. If you want to turn the lane keep assist off, there's a little green symbol up there. If you want to turn it off, just hit that button once. Off, it's gone. That's awesome. I wish all new vehicles had something that simple. You don't have to hold it down, you don't have to go into any menus, just hit the button on or off. Onto the dirt now. We're on a corrugated gravel road, and it's not doing that well. It's kind of vibrating and shaking around a bit. The steering still feels relatively planted though, but yeah, a lot of shaking and rattling going on, and shunting. You can kind of feel the platform sort of shunting back and forwards a little bit as it's taking up the demands of the bumps and so on. We'll do our usual loop around here, so I'll go down this way and then come back out through there. There's some sort of muddy bog holes, a couple of bumps and a little jump down here as well, although I'm a bit worried about this suspension setup because it didn't handle very good on the gravel. A lot of vibrations and things. We'll have to see how we go over the hump. I'll just go pretty slow to start with. That's what I usually do, and then just work my way up, but we'll see how it goes. I'm in 2-wheel drive right now. To flick it into 4-wheel drive or 4H, you just rotate that little thing, and you've got a little dashboard light there that says 4-wheel drive high. Down through here, there's some ruts and things. You probably can't see them because of the shadow, but yeah, it's not too bad. It's kind of shaking around a little bit, and here's the hump. Just maintain this speed. Yeah, it's not too bad. We'll try to go a little bit quicker, see how it handles it. Pick up the speed a little bit more, see how it goes. Yeah, okay, so it did bounce a little bit and continued to bounce, while others in this class, like the Hilux, the Ranger, and the D-Max, they'll maintain composure and they get back to normal. It'll do its initial jump and then compress the wheels, but then straight away it'll go back to normal. It won't continue to bounce, whereas this definitely did bounce a little bit, but it didn't bottom out, so that's a good thing. Obviously, you know, going off jumps is not, you know, what everyone wants to do in a ute, but I think it does give you some indication of its heavy duty capability. If you've loaded it up in the back and, you know, you hit a speed bump or hit a pothole or something like that, you don't want it crashing and bottoming out. You want it to maintain as best, you know, most composure as it can. This is doing okay, but yeah, I wouldn't like to hit a big bump accidentally or I'd feel worried about hitting big bumps accidentally compared with other 4x4 utes in this class, put it that way. We'll continue on and I'll go over it again at a similar sort of speed the other way, just to see down through these ruts. That wasn't too bad. It's definitely shaking a bit, so I'll go off this. Yeah, so that sort of crashed a little bit. It didn't bottom out, but it definitely crashed a little bit. Okay, first of the little bog holes. These are, they're little, very, or they're quite deep, but they're just small, so. Did scrape something gently. I heard something go dook underneath. Other utes I've been through there and it hasn't scraped, whereas some have, like the GWM ute, the Canon, that did scrape, if I remember correctly. I'll have to go through this one. There's another sort of mud pit down here. It depends on what weather we've had, but it's still the same depth. It just gets a bit boggier, I guess. So far so good. Yeah, that didn't touch any of the underbody or the diff or anything like that, so that's good. Four-wheel drive traction, of course. I've still got traction control turned on. I haven't bothered playing around with any of that. There isn't any specific modes like terrain modes and things, which I guess are a bit gimmicky in some ways, in some of the other rivals, because four-wheel drive is four-wheel drive. You know, you don't really need to worry about picking sand and snow and all that sort of thing most of the time anyway. If you're going to that level of detail in your driving, then you know, I mean, it can be fun playing around with the different modes, so it adds a new dimension. Okay, we've got a bit of a steep uphill section here with some bumps and things along the way. It, as always, probably doesn't look that steep on camera, but it is quite steep and it's a little bit wet. We'll see how these tyres go. I might just turn the traction control off for this bit, just so we can see how the actual drive system copes. I'll put it in the kind of worst line. Oops, something scraped then. Just try and keep it easy, nice and steady. It's going up just fine, even with traction turned off. Yeah, it did it just fine. It just sort of knocked something underneath the bottom there. Yeah, not too bad. Go back down and test out any hill descent control. Hill descent controls is this button here. Hit that, hill descent control on, and away we go. Now, if I just take my foot off the brake, it'll start slowing the vehicle automatically, so that's without the brakes. We are going a little bit fast for my liking. I don't know how to adjust the speed, not with that. There's no sort of main speed setting showing. 5 kilometers an hour, 6 kilometers an hour. It's a little bit fast for my liking, but I don't know how to slow it down. Sometimes you just hit the brakes or slow the car and it'll stay at that speed, whereas this continues to roll and then it catches it. It's kind of a bit reactive rather than proactive. But hey, it got us down there and it seemed to manage stability pretty good. Okay, I took the same line that time, but it just touched whatever it touched last time, but not as much. So if you just take it easy, it will get through. But in saying that, I've, again, taken other rival utes up here and they don't scrape anything, kind of regardless of the speed well, within reason anyway. But hey, it's doing all right. It's being a 4x4 ute, and that's its key focus, obviously. No problem through that little bit. And then down here we do have some relatively deep ruts that we'll put the wheels into and see if the diff scrubs out in the middle as we go through. Now obviously these this track will wear over time, and rain and all that sort of thing will cause some issues, but I don't think many people come down here, so every time I come down here it looks basically the same. It's just if this is filled with water or not, due to any rain. But I'll have a listen. Yep, it's scrubbing something under there. Slow it down. Yep. Yep. Yes, definitely. Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's scrubbing quite a bit. So it doesn't have the clearance of some of the rivals. Bit of a print on my forehead there from the camera. But there we go, the SsangYong Musso. In my opinion, or from what I've seen, it doesn't excel in any particular area. Maybe the price, it's 49,000 something, which is pretty good for a top of the range 4x4 ute in Australia today. But as we've seen, it doesn't really excel off the road. It can do it, but it scrubs out a little bit. It doesn't have any terrain modes or anything like that. So it doesn't push above any of the rivals in that sort of area. On the road, it has some shunting and things going on. There's a bit of vibrations on gravel roads as well. And it doesn't particularly stand out with handling. Again, coming back to that price, I think it's pretty good for its price. So you can't expect class leading anything with a very cheap anything. So there's that, but the interior is quite nice. It does stand out as a kind of refined environment and design. Apart from that, you know, lots of hard plastics in some areas, but it makes it more hard wearing in the long term. The fuel economy is not that good either. The official rating is 9 litres per 100 kilometres. For a 2.2 litre 4-cylinder engine in this class, that's pretty high. A lot of them are about 8, and some even dip into the 7s. So the fuel economy doesn't stand out. The off-road performance doesn't stand out. The on-road performance and handling doesn't really stand out. It's just the price, really. You get 7-year warranty, which is also good for the ute segment. Kia will have its upcoming Tasman, which will probably be covered by 7-year warranty as well, as all their models are. So we'll have to contend with that. If you just want a cargo carrying vehicle that's brand new, covered with good warranty, easy to drive, relatively capable off-road, and yet it has that big bed or big tray at the back, or option of that big bed and tray at the back, then yeah, I can see why lots of people would buy something like this. I would just be a bit worried about resale value. SsangYong has been around for a while. They're a Korean brand, so they kind of know what they're doing. I think they haven't got as many runs on the board, so they haven't been able to increase their profits enough to reinvest in their products. Although in saying that, the last time I drove a SsangYong was 2012, I think. So this is 10 or 12 years later. It's a huge leap forward. It is a massive leap forward. So it'll be interesting to see where they go, if they can sell a few more. All right, let's head out now to do the performance testing and see what it goes like.